If you were not doing what you're doing right now, what will you be?
Insurance agent.
Hi everyone, today we're going to talk shop with Desmond from Atypical Films. Hi Desmond.
Hello. Hi.
Hi, thank you for being here.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
And
Thank you for having me.
You're making the long trek to the north,
Yes,
far north.
Yes, I got lost.
But you didn't need to use your passport or anything, right?
No, I did not.
Because the causeway is closed anyway.
Yes, that's true.
So anyway,
in these unprecedented times.
Yes. So anyway, before we start, right, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you currently do?
Right. Desmond Tan. I wear many hats. I am a film director. I direct primarily TV commercials. I also own a company, a production house called Atypical Films. We've been around for about 6 to 7 years. Prior to that, I had another production house, and before that, I was in another production house for about 11 years. So all in 2021, this would be my 21st or 22nd year in the industry. So I've been doing this for 21 to 22 years, give or take. Some of the times I'm asleep, so I'm not sure.
Okay. So I mean, how did you start? I mean, how do you start being in the industry? How do you begin? What was your first job or first role?
Slave or like everybody else? No, I'm just kidding. And you will all be slaves.
I was a slave, by the way.
So back in the day, we didn't have a lot of options education-wise. When I was studying and wanting to get into the film industry or get into the industry, so I had to attend a business course at Temasek Poly. That was the closest. If not, it would have been mass comm. Couldn't get into that. Nian. Just kidding. So after the army, I had to go to Australia. So thankfully, I was in a fortunate position enough to be able to afford that, obviously. So I did film there. And by the time I came back, I just jumped straight into film production. Did not know where, didn't know anybody. There's no Google, you can't Google people. So I just took the yellow pages and looked for film companies and just started sending my hard copy resume out, either fax or snail mail, yes. And eventually I interviewed at a particular company. I had no idea what commercial world was like. All I really wanted to just work in film. That's all I knew. And I just kind of launched head on into it. And here I am. I started as a locations scout, looking for locations. On my first location scout, I was looking for a forest for a Coca-Cola shoot. And on that one single day, it wasn't the first day of work, I think it was maybe a couple of weeks later, I almost died twice in one day.
How?
Well, the first time was because we were looking for a forest. So the director said, okay, I need a forest, not too heavy, not too dense, but not too light as well. Need to have some amount of sunlight coming in, and a stream. So I said, okay, fine. So put on my good old army boots and went recceing. So I came across this clearing that was interesting. I called the director, say, hey, come over here. Unbeknownst to me, there was a big ditch behind me, and I fell backwards towards this ditch. Boom! When I opened my eyes, I realized that I just missed a rebar. A rebar is an iron kind of a bar that you use for construction, like centimeters away from your body. So I could have been impaled like, vampire. So survived that, thankfully. And then I was like, wow, okay, that was close. And then a few minutes after that, as we were crossing a small road, this was in Punggol before Punggol was even, developed. Just as I was about to cross the road to get into the recce van, a car lost control and came careening towards me. I jumped out of the way, like, whoa, right? And then it hit the pylon that was next to me, like missed me by a few centimeters. So yeah, almost died twice in a day. I should have just taken that as a sign to get out of the industry, but here I am. I'm still here.
21 years later.
21 years later. Still looking like 21 years old. Just kidding.
So, I mean, from that, as a location scout, like you mentioned, right? How did you end up to, owning 2 production houses and having Atypical Films for the last 6 years?
I moved on from a location scout after that.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my then executive producer always gave me challenges, and you could say I'm not impatient, obviously, but I'm always craving for the next challenge. I initially set out to be a DP. That's what I wanted to do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like many guys in the industry, they all want to be that hotshot DP and all that, same thing. So I was in charge of the camera store. So I was very happy when they gave me, the keys to the camera storeroom. I would take out the camera, which is a 35mm camera. It was a BL4. So I'll take it out, clean it all the time, practice loading film, right? So I'll do that all the time. I'm also in charge of the storeroom, like the storeroom. Also very happy with that. Very annoyed when people mess up my storeroom. So yeah, for a good almost 2 years, I was doing locations, I was in charge of the store and all this stuff. But along the way, I guess I proved myself as well. So my very, very first shoot, I was already given a second AD role. Do not ask me what a second AD does. I had no idea then. I was also Conti. So back then, don't have digital cameras, so I had to carry the Polaroid camera around, right? So I had to take photos of the wardrobe, every scene, and carry these Polaroids around. So I was Conti, second AD, and I think was location manager. So I had 3 roles at one time. So clearly I did not too terribly, not too shabby. So along the way, over a few months or for a few years, my executive producers would then give me and trust me with different roles. Eventually I went up to a line producer, and then started to produce shoots. Where I come from, we are very stingy with the roles. So if you're a line producer, you're a line producer. If you're a producer, means that you're bringing in jobs, you're bringing in money and revenue for the company. If you're an executive producer, then you truly are an executive producer. These days, these terms get thrown away quite cheaply, without much qualification or without much experience. Anyone can be, a line producer or even a producer. Sometimes you just jump from an AP to a producer. I still hold these words quite dearly. It means something, and you do need to kind of have that level of gravitas to be able to call yourself a producer, because it means something. So back then I became a line producer, and that was the max I became, because I never made it to producer, because by that time what happened was that I don't like money, by the way. Well, I like making money, but I didn't like to manage money. I'm not very good at math, as with many people in this industry, terribly. So I became a very short-tempered, angry person. I think the personality the money aspect of being a producer didn't sit well with me, with my personality. I wanted art, I wanted film, beauty, music. I came from a very theatrical background as well, in high school all the way to my late teens. I was always involved in performing arts. So dealing with money was very antithetical to my belief in beauty and art and all that stuff, right? So I'm bohemian by nature. So I became a very angry person. So one day I punched the wall and I broke my hand at 30 years old. So broke my hand here, it's shattered into pieces. And then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm a angry person, right? And that's not what I want to be. So I went to my boss and I said, okay, I quit. I don't want to do producing anymore. I don't want to do anything with money anymore. So then he said, okay, why don't you start doing more creative work instead? So I was like, oh, you dangle this style carrot. Are you paying me more money? Yes, I am. Oh, like that. Okay, I shall consider your offer. So I did. And long story short was, I then embarked on my directing career at the ripe old age of 30. Late for some people, but it's okay. I've always been a late bloomer. Make no apologies for that. We also started an offshoot company at that point. So at that point, I started to learn how to manage at least the creative aspects of running a company. So I became creative partner. At that point of time, then I started to recruit and to get other directors in. Our first roster of directors, very exciting. It was Kelvin Tong and Glenn Gui, Jasmine Ng, So these are all feature film directors. These are all big names, and really a lot of them are my heroes. So I felt very honored to be able to kind of at least rub shoulders with them and work with them and produce for them. Then that continued for a couple of years. All in, under the entity, I gave about 11 years of my life. Full of gratitude because that allowed me to make a living.
That's where we met.
And that's where we met.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When we were still shooting film. Yeah. Yes. Correct.
I was Desmond's PA, I think. I started off as his PA and then I went on to producing for you.
Yes. I convinced you to produce. Yes. Sorry, I duped you into producing. She was very good. I just want to say. Today, if she comes back to producing, she'll be kick-ass. Yeah, she'll still be very good.
But I think that I remember that shoot because I think I cried, remember?
Oh.
I broke down on the last day in Terminal 3, remember? Dear. It was do you remember?
I do.
Yeah, I was completely stressed because we were shooting at the Changi airport and there was a lot of
logistics
permits and logistics. It was overnight shoots and it just continuous. And I think I broke down, and the production manager at that time, Terrence, went outside and told me, "Don't worry, this is the second last day. You can do this." Because I think I was just overwhelmed and completely.
Things have not changed much since that point. People still cry on set.
Yeah.
People still come in and they're just overwhelmed by the sheer amount of things that you have to look after, the sheer amount of people on set. On a big film shoot, you're looking at
with clients, you know. I think,
crew, cast, talents, everybody are looking at anything between 60 to 80 people on set, and you have to feed them, you have to look after their every interest, where they go to the toilet, when do they eat, what do they drink. Everybody has a different coffee order. How do they move from point to point? And you just have to look after all those things over and above having to look after the creative aspects, the budget, the director's demands, the DP's demands. It's a lot. It's a lot of things to handle.
So people do burn out pretty easily, right?
Yes, they do. I recently, not naming any names whatsoever, I recently had a young employee. She joined us. I believed in her. I really thought that she had the power. But she burnt out very quickly. It's partly a COVID thing and a manpower issue, and so she was left in a position that I did not want her to be actually as well. So she was left in a middle manager position, even though she had just joined. So it's not fair to her. We eventually could, after about 2-3 days of shoot, surround her with the right people. But the first 2 days, she was kind of almost alone, managing. And that's tough because it's a big shoot. It's 60, 70 people. So I think that was very, very overwhelming. And same thing, cry, breakdown and all that. It was just purely a manpower issue. And we just didn't have enough people at that point in time. Just something happened and then typically I would never let a young person be thrust into a position of leadership so soon. You have to ease them in. You almost have to
have a support system, right?
And that's why it's important to be a PA. It's important to pay your dues.
It's very important.
It's very important to be a PA. It's not just because you have to pay your dues, respect your elders. It's not just because of that. It's because, and I always tell my PAs this, you are in a position where a small amount of responsibility is given to you, and it allows you to take a step back and look at what everyone is doing from a safe distance, and you're not given a huge load of responsibility to look after suddenly. When the time comes when you are comfortable with the heavy load of responsibility, of money, of people's safety, of lives, then the more experienced producers like us will then say, okay, you're ready. When you're well and ready, then we'll give you the responsibility in levels. And then you're prepared and then that will ensure that you have longevity in your career.
Yeah.
And then it's a challenge, and then the next step, the next challenge, and the next challenge. You can't just throw the whole thing in. So it's wrong, it's ethically wrong, morally wrong, mentally wrong for producers who are very senior to take a young kid out from school or an intern and say, okay, you are now the camera assistant, or you're now the first AD, or you're now, the line producer, the PM. It's wrong. It's not right. Because firstly, you're not being accountable to the budget given to you for the job, because now you're getting a young kid to do that. That's part one. And part two, you're placing undue pressure on this child or this kid. Oh dear, did I say child? Yeah. Because I see them as kids, right? And they're kids, right? And they're going to go home and they're going to feel
that maybe they didn't do
that they didn't do so well. And if their senior bosses are not good mentors to put things in context for them, then it's very bewildering and you feel very small. And the last thing we want is for someone who has potential, but they give up too soon. And then they say, oh, this is not for me. I'm going to be an insurance agent. No disrespect to insurance agents. I love insurance agents, but I'm just going to change industry because this is not for me. But this person might have so much potential. Yeah, we just need to nurture it. It's like a little flower, right? You just have to protect it until it's really strong enough. Then you uproot it. Then you go to a bigger plot, and so on and so forth, until it becomes that tree or that little bark, and and then it grows. So you do need to protect it. You can't just throw them in. It's wrong.
But I think, I don't know whether it's true, but I think there's not many of you around like this.
There are lots of
I know for a fact that there's a lot of companies where they're happy to employ, fill their staff with just interns, but I guess that's not for us to say, right, how they run their company. But I mean, how did you, let's rewind back, right, to how did you say, all right, I am going to take that responsibility and start? How did Atypical Films come about? From KTV, right?
Right, yes. You go on Accra website, you pay $2, then you just register.
And the name, what's Atypical?
Right. It's just a play on the word typical. I've always been, I guess, going against the grain. I've always been interested in the dichotomy of, good and bad, black and white. So it's always that duality of nature. So it's typical, but it's atypical, but okay, you know what I mean. You get it, right? Okay. So I've always been interested in that duality of a human nature. So that's kind of how I've always felt for that name. Although I admit that it's really a mouthful. Atypical. Like when you email me, Desmond at atypicalfilms.com.sg, wow, then got a lot of spelling errors.
Yeah, it's okay, I'm used to it. My name is damn long, so.
That's true. How did Atypical Films come about? I think after KTV, which was my previous production house, I had the opportunity and the good fortune and a lot of blessing to be a fairly strong brand name by myself, the Desmond Tan as a director brand. But I felt like I needed a brand to be bigger than me. I've always believed, and I've always desired and coveted a institution or a gathering of creatives, a safe place for creatives to come, share ideas, sit on beanbags, listen to a fun record, talk about movies and films and creative things, and be completely different in styles but completely alike in passion. And I wanted Atypical Films to be that space, to be a safe space for creative people to come, frolic, play, and do good work. It doesn't have to be commercial work. It can be any film or media expression. I believe that if you're a true creative, you will just create.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be films. It can be books. It can be children's books. It can be a sculpture. It can be a cup. It can be a drawing. It can be a podcast or poetry. Anything. If you're a creator, you will just create. You can't help it but to create. It's in your nature. And so I wanted that, and so I wanted Atypical Films to be this place that was bigger than just me. And I wanted people to come, and so from there I started to bring in more directors. Some are freelance, obviously, but some are in-house. All the producers that I have, I will always call them creative producers as well, because they are just as creative as the directors. No one has the monopoly on creativity. Nobody. The PA can, the cleaning lady could be creative and come up with something completely, off the charts. You just never know when inspiration will hit. So I truly believe in that. And so that's where Atypical Films really is. It's not just a place, it's really a state of mind and a place. It's not a breeding ground, what's the word? It's a dimension. Che.
If I were to ask you, I'm sure in this 20 odd years that you have been doing so many projects, right? What is the one thing you think that you haven't done and want to do in any, creative things?
NDP show.
Seriously?
Yeah.
You want to do an NDP show?
Yeah, for real.
Like what Jun Feng is doing.
Last year?
This year.
This year? Yeah. Hell yeah. But no lah, don't want now I have no problems working army, guys. Oh wait, hang on, didn't we do a NDP
I know we had a lot of stories about that.
With an army guy.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Another day conversation.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So NDP, because I feel like it's there's a whole patriotism thing. Yes, there's a whole there are obviously many arguments for and against.
But why? Why NDP?
I'm a patriot.
Okay.
I'm a patriot. I love the country, warts and all. We're not perfect. We're far from perfect. But we can celebrate what's common about us.
Is this the performer side of you that's coming out?
Yeah. Actually, you're kind of right. So yeah, I think it feels like it's the amalgamation of the performer theatrical part of me, plus the filmic part of me, plus there is a true purpose to it, and you really can affect feelings, emotions, some lives to a certain extent, and it's very immediate, I think.
Okay.
I do not look forward to having to burn every single weekend, obviously, but I do enjoy bringing
masses of people
together from all walks of life, yes, including the military people, and go, hey, this is a vision. Hey, this is the dream, and this is where we can go. Let's see if these military guys and these government people and this other groups of people can work towards this one goal for one common purpose. And I think there's a beauty in that. And that's like every film set, right?
Yeah.
You kind of bring everyone together and say, okay, come follow me, right, to this vision. And I think that's a beautiful thing if everyone can be enthused to do that. Towards this one common vision.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a NDP song already.
End off with fireworks. Right?
And off with fireworks. I'm not a big fan of, like huge fireworks. I don't think you necessarily need to have that much fireworks.
I think you need to send your resume in at some point. I never knew this NDP aspirations from you, but you have always been someone who is a very cheerleader, very rah-rah kind of a person, character, personality. I remember you coming on set early in the morning, and you have this, with your kopi, but that full of energy, and we're all like, oh, we're dying, but you always have that, that spirit and that energy to gather people, even at 6 a.m. in the morning. So
4:30.
Yeah, whatever that time was, right?
Yeah.
But I think you'd be suited for.
I hope so. Even if I'm not an NDP show director, I'll just be a cheerleader, though. With short skirt.
Maybe.
Short skirt. I also can.
Those people that.
I know. Then you can flip me.
I think maybe you start off from there.
Yes, I also say.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean. Okay, NDP aside and Atypical Films and all that, I want to actually ask you this, which I think for me was a very important aspect of being in production, right? That the whole production life is completely tough, right? How did you survive, or how the hell did you survive this 21 years? I mean, must have many failed relationships or lost and missed relationships, I suppose. Yeah.
I'm happily married.
Okay.
Kudos to my wife, long-suffering wife. Long-suffering wife. Production life is tough.
Yeah.
That's an understatement. It's not just in Singapore. Around the world, there is a small fraternity of film people, and I dare say even like, I don't know, live events, I guess. Because the hours are so unforgiving.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a solution. Well, I think that there can be some solutions, there can be some mitigating factors, but even in the States, even in Australia, with unions, the hours are still very hardcore. There are, and I always say this to young people, there are easier ways to make a living out there, to have a life.
That's the hard truth, right?
Yes, and it's the truth.
Yeah.
There are easier ways to make a living, to, if you want the whole, get married, have a house, have a dog, that whole suburban Singaporean dream, it's easier if you're not in the film industry. So if you're in this, then it really needs to be fueled by a certain level of passion or pure madness, or you love the adrenaline. But I will say that it takes a toll on relationships, friendships, health, mental well-being, and it's not easy. Which is why a lot of film production people are very close-knit, because that's all we have. We have each other, right? It's really being in the trenches
together, right?
Together, yeah. How you survive, I have no idea. I think now, with the benefit of hindsight, looking back, I'm not going to say what I did, but I am going to say what I should and could have done. I think we could have been more disciplined with our sleep, more disciplined with eating better food rather than just binge on bad food and fast food. I think the stress will always be there. I think with any job, there will be stresses, and I think that's fine. That's normal. I mean, if you're a banker, you're a lawyer, of course there's stress, right? There's lots of mental stress, but it's how you manage those stresses. Yeah. We weren't very disciplined. We would be, we'll prep until like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Then we'll go play games, right? Park game, play Counter-Strike until like 4 a.m. Go back, sleep for 2 hours, wake up, go back to work. Or we'll go shoot, finish at 11, 12, go back, shower, go to Zouk, party for 3 hours, drink, wake up, rinse and repeat. But we were young and we could do it. But what happens is that it takes a toll on your relationships and on your health, as well as our parents, because our parents never saw us, right? Hey, you treat this house like a hotel, right? How many of us have heard that from our parents, right? Yeah. It's your hotel, is it? Come in and out, I don't even see you. I wake up, you're gone. I go to bed, you're not even here yet. So we've all heard this. Every kid who is in film or some media production will hear exactly the same thing. 20 years ago, we heard it. 20 years later, we'll still hear it.
Yeah.
Will it get any better? I don't know. May not. But if I could do it all over again, I would be very careful in prioritizing my life. So work is work, and I'm passionate about it. I love it. I'll do it. Then once really there's an off day, I will prioritize family. So then I'll make sure that, okay, I'll spend every available time with my family, and then my friends, and obviously at some point with myself, right, to self-care lah. There is a very unhealthy, toxic culture. It might be an Asian thing, might also be a film thing. Asian plus film, lagi worse, where you're being guilt-tripped to working longer hours than you have to.
I was going to just ask you that.
Yeah. Then the boss will say, if you're going like at 6 p.m, wow, half day, hey, chick. I've said it, but really as a joke, right? Then I realized I was perpetuating this terrible toxic culture. I didn't know it then until, a couple of years ago. Then I was like, wait a minute, that's not good. Maybe they're really feeling like guilty and then they are staying behind. Because I really do tell my staff and even interns, I'll say, guys, at 5 p.m, if you're done with all your work and you're really done, just get out of here. And if by middle of the day, if there's really nothing to do and you've done everything you've done, and you go to the producers and they got nothing for you, do it. Go watch a movie, go and read a book, because these are creative pursuits. And if you're a creative person, you will pursue these things. You have to feed that passion. So what is the benefit of working to the bone on the production aspects, but you are depriving yourself of that creative pursuit? You need to go read a book, go to the museum, watch a film, watch the sunset, and be inspired. You need to live a life that's inspired, and that's important. So I do tell them that. And there has to be a time where, because work will always be there. It will always be there. But there has to be a time where you say, okay, you know what? I'm closing this laptop. I'm closing this notebook. Bam. Stop. I'm going to look after myself. I'm going to compartmentalize, which is something I learned from my wife. Compartmentalize, close the box, set it aside, look after myself, open this other box and do that. Because if you just keep working non-stop, you'll never finish one. You'll never finish.
Yeah, and you tend to sort of, because a lot of creative work, right, it's never done.
It'll never be done.
It will never be done, right? It's always like better, you can do better, you can, I remember you were someone who wanted to do your one-man show, right? Want to do everything, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, he likes to like, to, you know, go outside and shoot a recce shot or go and shoot something. If it's a small project, he'll do everything on his own, and then because of that, it's just sleepless nights and technical issues. Remember, we always spoke in the middle of the night because of technical issues. So that definitely, I mean, like, I think it's hard for a young person, perhaps a new person in the industry, to know when is that
time to
cut-off point, that time to stop, right?
Yeah. It's a difficult thing to balance, because if you're a true creative, you will never be satisfied. You will always want to improve. You always want to learn more. And once you go down this, I love research, right? Every job that I do, I always start with research, and research brings me down that rabbit hole. Whether I'm doing a commercial for the Navy, and then if I'm doing something for the Navy, then I will read all I can about the Navy. I'll learn how many is one knot. I'll learn the distance between ships, what's a forecastle, what's the aft, what's, all these other things that has nothing to do with the film, but I'll learn it. Because I feel like you want to go deep into that culture. I want to know everything there is about that within the allotted time. But you just can't know every single thing. So you have to cheat code yourself lah. And then you have to kind of have a cut-off time. So I will wake up very early. I'll wake up like 3 a.m. and I'll read. And I'll go down that rabbit hole. I'll do lots of notes, lots of references. My cutoff time is when the sun comes up lah. Then I go to work. So that's research, right? Research and then go to work. And it just keeps going. So I think if you're single, you got no kids, and that's your one consuming thing, okay, that's fine, that's cool. Live that passion, right? And you have a couple of years to do that. But at some point, you do need to spare a thought, because no man is an island. We live in a community of our family, our friends, our loved ones. And we do need to be part of these communities, because that's where the stories are. And that's what human relations are. And all film is about humanity, eventually. So if we're not out there engaging with the rest of the world, then we're not living life. And if you don't live life, you can't portray life in film. So you can't just be that one solo emo, like, long hair or small, drink black coffee, then write your film in situ. You can't just be that one thing. You still need to go out there and be with people, or at least observing people. So you do need to get out there and just close the books and live it, then just read about it. So I'll tell students and interns also that, yes, we can watch the films, we can read all the books we can, but these are all secondhand information. These are all a book about a film or a film about a film. You go and check out this YouTube behind the scenes of this movie. It's always secondhand information. Why not just go out there and live it? So I sometimes tell kids who just come out and they say they graduate from poly, then I'll say, oh, okay, do I go and further my studies or should I just jump into work? Sometimes I will say, do neither. I will say, go and be a waiter, go and collect rubbish, go and be, I don't know, do something completely different, work in the zoo, be something out of your experience. The problem is, if we are film students, and I was a film student, right, is that we are always reading about the people living that life. Why don't you go and be that person living that life, even for a while, and try all these different things? If you are going to write about being about a chef, go and be and work in a kitchen for that couple of months and all that, you see. So there's nothing that beats that first-hand experience. And when you're young, you don't have like heavy financial commitments. If you don't have those commitments, then why not?
Why not?
You know, even if it's just for a while. And I think that will be a very worthwhile use of your time. I mean, I used to be a door-to-door salesman. I've sold books over online. I've done other part-time jobs and all that. So you start to draw on those experiences, how the feelings are. And then that's interesting is experiences to draw on. Unfortunately, with COVID, obviously you can't travel, but if you could, some
work experience,
you've got all these experiences that's available that we didn't have. I think if you spend a year or two doing that, and then you come back and then you do your films or you do your other stuff, then I think it's a lot deeper, a lot richer.
So, if you were not doing what you're doing right now, what will you be? What do you want to be?
Insurance agent. I would. Oh man, I have no idea. Now or then?
Now. Pretend. I want to say pretend family don't exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretend family don't exist. You're just you. What do you want to do?
I might actually just end up doing the same thing, because it's strange to say that. As much as there's a love-hate relationship with this industry, the one thing I like about this is that I get to experience many different types of lives through the subject matters. I have the privilege and the honor to be able to dive into different experiences and different livelihoods. I get to talk to people of all sorts of, all walks of life, from the founder of Grab to prisoners to pregnant women to single parents to Navy colonels to Air Force generals to, you get to rub shoulders with such a wide variety of people in the course of my work. And that's a beautiful thing. And I get to have that little peek into their lives, albeit for a very short period of time. And I enjoy that. I don't enjoy the punishing hours. I don't. But I do enjoy the privilege and the honor of being able to travel the world and to be able to peek into all these different lives, these 11 windows of existence around the world.
Wow. You had a health scare.
Yes.
2 years ago.
Not scary at all. It was real.
It was a real, it was a major health scare.
Yes.
2 years ago. I remembered when I found out, I was absolutely upset. And then I called you and we spoke for a long time over the phone. I was in the car. I still remember that moment. Do you want to tell us a little bit about? I think not so much about the illness, but how have you changed? I think.
I think. So repeat. How have you changed? Well, Genevieve. Wait, let me think.
I think it's changed tremendous.
My perspective?
From my perspective, yes, but I want to hear your.
Right. So, about 2.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer. That's cancer of the colon or your intestines. Stage 4 because it had spread to another organ, which is my liver. So 1 cm in my liver and a couple of cm in the colon. Since then, and this is the summarized version, since that date, 21st of February 2019. I've had 2 surgeries. So from a colon to a semicolon.
Sorry, shouldn't be laughing.
No, you should totally be laughing, right? From colon to semicolon. And then after that, I had 8 rounds of chemotherapy. And then it spread to my peritoneum, which is like the fat above the intestine. No, it wasn't liposuction. I wish it was. So after that, another surgery to remove that. So now I have a zipper here.
Yeah, don't show us.
Yeah.
I saw just now.
Oh, you saw.
Yeah.
Okay, right. So there's a zipper here, and then another 12 rounds of chemotherapy. So a total of 20 rounds of chemotherapy and 2 major surgeries. Shout out to my insurance agent. Buy insurance.
We had this conversation about insurance.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm a firm believer in insurance. Shout out to my doctors, and obviously to a long-suffering wife.
And 2 boys.
And the 2 boys, and the village around me that supported, from my family to my friends to my company, my staff and all who supported me for the 2 odd years of treatment. So that's the long and short of it. I am currently in remission. You're never really cured from cancer. You're only what we call NED, no evidence of disease.
Okay.
Right? So because the scans can only detect the cancer cells of a certain size onwards, but sekali smaller, it's
hiding
it could
somewhere,
be hiding
right?
somewhere,
Yeah.
right? So the body is a temple, and I try to keep it as clean as I can, as stress-free as I can. I'm in production. Right. So
You changed your diet.
I
mean,
changed
that was
my
a
diet.
huge thing for me.
yeah, it's huge, right? So huge meat eater,
Yeah.
self-professed carnivore, vegetables, heavy smoker, cause production, right? 1.5 packs a day,
Does it mean production means what's more?
right? Terrible sleep habits, average 3-4 hours of sleep a day, 7 days a week, 365. I work hard. I don't play. I really work hard. And that's the kind of lifestyle I had for a very long time. So on the mental level, on the physiological level, lifestyle was just bad. So was the cancer as a result of the work? It might not be. It's hard to say. No one really knows. But there's a saying, and it's a saying that genetics loads the gun, but your lifestyle fires it.
Genetic loads the gun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my father has cancer as well. So yes, I probably have a genetic predisposition to have cancer,
Yeah.
but to really tip it over the edge could really come down to lifestyle. So it's all the bad food, the smoking, the hours, the lack of sleep. I was essentially abusing my body for my work. That much is true. I think anyone can see that, especially my wife could see that I was literally putting my body on the line for the work. Which is why I suppose today I have a very different perspective to the production line and production life. I think there's a sustainable way of doing it. However, I do think that we're fighting against a certain culture in production, not just in Singapore but worldwide. However, I am heartened to know that young people these days, we may call them strawberries, Gen Zs, not millennials, you're millennial. You're millennial.
I don't even know what I am.
Yeah, Gen Zs. So,
I'm not a
so
millennial.
with the young people these days, they are all for life experiences, and they're all for work-life balance, and they will
Are
go,
they?
yeah,
Oh.
yeah, for real. Like they will go like, okay, when they're like, I'm interviewing them, they'll say, okay, how are my weekends like? What time do you finish work and all that? And I was like, okay. Now, if this was employer Dezo 10 years ago, I would frown upon them, because I would be projecting my work ethic on them, and my work ethic would be 24/7. And that's not fair. And that's not right, because look where it landed me, right? But now, having had cancer, and having known that my lifestyle probably led to where I am, I now realize that's not the way to go. That's not sustainable. It's not healthy mentally as well, psychologically. So when the kids are saying that, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. So a lot of older folk in the industry will go like, wow, these young people, they cannot work hard, they cannot take the hardship. I would be like, that's good. It's not a bad thing. But I would say work hard to a point, stop it, go live your life, come back, work hard again. There has to be some limits. There has to be. Because the last thing I want to see is a film industry that is only filled with young people, because by the time they're 40, they will burn out and they will go somewhere else. We need veterans. A good sustainable film industry is one that's filled with good, well-seasoned veterans with experience, 50 and above, good middle managers in your maybe 30s to your 40s who have experience and still have fire, but they need to live a life because they have families to lead. And then you have the fiery, albeit inexperience, of young people. And you need all three. You need this to propel as the coal to kind of push the whole engine. And you need steady hands to guide the train. And the steady hands are the guys and the girls up there, right? And then you need the people in the middle to kind of pull everything together. So you need all of it. You can't just exist on the fiery enthusiasm of young people. They need mentors. They need steady hands to guide them along the right and the wrong things to do. But at the same time, the older ones, they might not be able to keep to the same hours, but that's where you kind of share the load, across the spectrum. I think that's a sustainable sort of industry. We are not like that now. So we are seeing a heavy burnout rate. People in their late 40s are already thinking of, what's my exit strategy from this industry? They shouldn't be thinking that. They should be thinking, okay, now I'm at my third leg of my career. I should be able to earn more money, use and leverage off my experience and know-how, work maybe a little bit less hours, mentor the young ones. And that's where the value is. That's where their value is,
There needs to be that structure.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. So the schools, IMDA, the government, the associations, and the industry themselves need to come to this point where there's this, in the old days, it really is an apprenticeship sort of a system. That has to happen somehow in this whole entire ecosystem. If not, you're going to see a very young people-led industry. It's not a bad thing, but they need some level of guidance along the way.
If not, sort of maybe production quality and
correct will suffer.
Yeah, is that what you guys are doing you're part of the Singapore Motion
Singapore Association of Motion Picture Professionals. #Jasmine.
Yes. Is that what you are trying to do, or are thinking, or in the plans?
I think SAMP.
Short form SAMP.
Yes, so short form SAMP, Singapore Association of Motion Picture Professionals, is the umbrella organization for anybody who works in the industry. Lofty goals is that one association that was created to look after the industry generally and to obviously push best practices. Everything from education,
money,
how the freelancers handle themselves, young people coming out from schools, how do you conduct yourself as a freelancer?
In essence, right?
Exactly, engaging the schools, etc. So there's a lot to be done. We are still a very young industry, and it needs partnerships from all quarters, educational institutions, the freelancers, the companies and all. No one entity can do it alone. But yes, that's part of one of the things that we want to kind of do.
Now with social media, especially during the pandemic and all, it has really propelled the whole content creators and that whole industry, right? It's like really a whole role, correct? During our time, that role never existed, right? So, I mean, like I know there's a lot of pros, right? But I want to ask you, what's your biggest pet peeve of like this new age, this young media kids? You know, I mean, they're doing content on everything, right? On different platforms. What's your biggest peeve? I have a lot, but I want to hear what's your biggest peeve.
Hey, I binge on my TikTok once in a while. Guiltily, I'll go like, well, you know. So, a peeve.
Yeah.
A peeve.
I mean, there's a lot of pros, yeah?
There are lots of pros.
Yeah.
I think if there is one peeve, I have a very open-minded liberal point of view about the Can anyone in this room say this word?
Democratization.
There you go, he said it! Woohoo! Wow, this word is really... I have a very open-minded view about the democratization of technology, especially media, and that it's open to the hands of anybody. Back when we started, it was really only if you have enough money, you could then shoot on film, 60 mil, 35 mil. If you got not enough money, then you shoot on video. We sneer at the people who shoot on video. Right? Or on tape. On tape, they show on tape.
Hey.
But it's great. Now you show anything,
True.
and you can have 1 million followers, right? And young people will also realize that just because you want to be a YouTube star or a TikTok star, it's not that simple. Because you really, really have to hone your craft, and there is a craft. Like if you ask me, okay, Dezo, in the next week, go and find 1 million followers on your Instagram. I probably wouldn't know how to do it. There's a way to do it, and I'm not plugged in to know how to do it.
You're not woke enough?
I'm not woke enough.
Yes.
Yes, I'm not woke enough. So there is a way to do it. There is a craft to it. There is a psychology behind it for you to master it. And kudos to the ones who devote themselves to that craft. I think if I had one tiny little peeve, it would be if young people come out and they want to be these creators, that's fine. More power to them. That's great. If they make it, awesome. But it would come to a point when life happens. They get married, they have the kids, they have the dog, the HDB, the car, the house, all of that. And then they start to realize that they need to up their income. Their branding, the work that they do, the craft, and they bring this sense of, I'm not going to say the word entitlement, but I'll bring the word in entitlement up to that level. And they go, oh man, I'm entitled to this, I need to have this, you need to give me this because I have 1 million followers. But it doesn't work that way, because the rules are a little bit different once you go to the next level. So we see the same thing with a lot of young graduates coming out from school, and they start forming their own production houses very quickly. Of course, it's easy to start a company. Like I said, you go to Accra website, put $2 there. Anyone can start a company. Anybody. You don't need an office space. You can do it in your underwear. A website, right? Of like Wix, and you have a $5,000 camera. Premiere, you get a subscription, done, you're a filmmaker. Right? It doesn't take much.
Just a laptop.
You have a laptop and you're a filmmaker. Now, and there are many who do it very, very well. You have your Brendan Lees of the world. So you have many people who can do it very well, but a lot of people don't see that they put a lot of hours of crafting behind that. Even though they are a YouTuber, you have, say, your Nas dailies, right? Yes, I know he's loud. Yes, I know he's all of that. But the guy works hard. You got to give it to him. That's dedication, right? Then you've got people like Casey Neistat, for example. Dude, his videos are killer, right? He's like the original. He's like one of the hardcore YouTubers out there. But if you really, really break down his films and his videos, he does not compromise his angles. He's really setting up all these angles, and it's tiring, and he's doing it all by himself. So a lot of respect there. I wouldn't be able to do it. I need like, 20 crew to do it. So, so I'm spoiled. You know, yeah. Who's the entitled one? But anyway, but I think what I'm trying to say is that with young people coming out, they don't even understand or start to see how the working world is like, dealing with clients, responsibly handling amounts of money, being able to communicate and to understand and integrate expectations, and not waste money, waste people's time, waste your own time. And you won't know these things until you've worked a little bit, you see. So leverage off the seniors, the mentors, the older producers, the production companies, work under them. There is a little anecdote. I know of this guy. He is a very experienced DOP today. He shoots all the car commercials in China. So if you know car commercials, the biggest ones are all shot in the States or in Europe or in China. They go to Xinjiang and all that. And Singaporean guy, okay. Obviously he's now in, I don't know, late 40s, early 50s. But back in the day, 20 years ago, he was a humble camera assistant. He was a loader. And then I realized that on the side, he was shooting print in the studio. And then in Indonesia, he was also working. And I asked him, hey man, if you're doing all these other side gigs, why is it that in Singapore, you're still doing, you know, the assistant role? And he says, well, so that the DP can make mistakes and I learn from them.
Wow.
Yeah, he's learning from all their mistakes. He's learning along the way, even though he's qualified to do it. So he was being patient. He was biding his time. He's learning from everybody else whilst quietly honing his craft. And it takes years to do it.
Yeah.
Back in the day, average time for a young person to be a DP is 10 years. Average, if not more. These days, you come straight out, I'm a DP.
Yeah.
Hell, they're not even a DP, they're a cinematographer. I know DPs who are super experienced who wouldn't even dare to call themselves a cinematographer. That word, they honor it so much. It means so much that they would never consider themselves as a cinematographer.
Yeah, I think being as an editor is the same thing, right? We took a long time to go from being an assistant to an editorial role. When you get that first project after doing night shift, right? And then you get that first project, that responsibility to cut something. You feel like it's a big moment. But then I think now with everything being on a laptop, so consumer, like, you know, anybody consumer friendly, right? Anybody can be an editor. So sometimes I do at one moment also felt that maybe it's time for me to get out of the industry, because, you know, anybody can edit even on their phones, right? So kind of lose that, you know, that moment, I think, for me.
I will say this though, and I feel the same thing, because the hierarchy from the highest level of filmmaking, let's say, which is like super epic Christopher Nolan feature film kind of thing, 200 million budgets, and then at the lowest tier is your I don't know, wedding videos, corporate videos, and all that. I'm not throwing any shade, but what I'm trying to say is that technology has actually brought this down to a level playing field. And it's not a bad thing. It just simply means that the younger ones are daring, they're bold, they're not scared.
I have to agree.
And then the older ones like us, we've got to up our game. So I've actually now, my beef is with old salty veterans of the industry who always say, and I say it sometimes, and now I'm going to stop saying this, I'm a 20-year veteran of the film industry. It doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year veteran and you don't embrace the new ways of doing things. Just 2 weeks ago, I think there was an article in the Straits Times. Silence on set. Fat James was here. Silence on set. Now he's a movie star. Just 2 weeks ago, there was an article by James where they interviewed James Dyson, right? Of Dyson, right? James Dyson, and he says that he would highly suspect if a prospective employee would say, "Oh man, I've got 15 years of experience in the industry, you should hire me," he would rather hire a young grad that doesn't know anything and is naive, because
The hunger to learn.
the hunger is there, and there is no mountain. They don't see a mountain. The mountain does not exist. Whereas if we're old and salty, we'll go like, "Huh, you asked me to do this? It's not very difficult there. You know why? I tell you 5 reasons why cannot be done." But the young person will go like, "I have no idea what can't be done or can be done, so I'll just do it." And that's refreshing and beautiful. And they'll go like, "Oh, this is tough. Okay, let's figure out a way to do it. Let's Google it." Or an old person will say, "Oh man, you asked me to code? I'll have to go to school for that." A young person will say, "Hold my bubble tea, give me 5 hours on YouTube." And that's what they do. So now with my young interns, I'll say, "Hey, you all know how to do this? Don't know." Then half an hour later, I go, "What are you doing?" "I'm watching YouTube. Oh, I'm learning on YouTube." "Okay, I know how to do already." That's what they do. Whereas the old person will go like, "Yeah, that's not really my training. You have to hire a qualified person to do it." With the young people, there's no qualified. They'll just figure it out and they'll just learn. So the institutions, I hope, would breed a cohort of young people who would understand how to learn new things than just learning things. And so us older folk should also embrace the new ways of doing things. And so, okay,
And to allow them, give them.
yeah, I mean,
liberty.
they are catching up to us there.
Yeah.
So we better up our game and know what they know, leverage what we know, and keep up with the trends. And we have to.
Very tiring, no?
It's tiring, but the world will still turn even if we don't want to. So if we want to stay in the game, then we better turn along with it. Yeah, I know it's tough and tiring, but hey, I'm still in it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I was also going to. I mean, that's a nice transition to the next thing. I was going to ask you about this. I know we have Anand here who is very social media savvy with TikTok and Discord and.
Yeah, I got Discord.
I don't know. He just introduced me to this world of Discord, and half the time I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah,
you know?
it's cool.
Wow, it's
Yeah.
I
Do you see
guess-
the latest Discord commercial with Awkwafina and Danny DeVito? Yeah, it's awesome.
Okay,
they got a lot of money lah. They got a lot of money. But anyway.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, so okay, now we know. I was going to ask you, what are you on? You know, now I mean, I have spoken to my nieces and all, and they will ask, so Auntie Jen, what are you on? Then I'm like, it took me a while to. I don't understand what you mean by what am I on. They meant what social media account?
Channel,
channel are you on? No, what are you on, right? So yeah, what are you on? That's my question.
I like to think I'm on everything.
Really?
It's my business to know.
So like all the big things, you have an account for all of it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I create stuff and I put it on.
Seriously?
Yeah, even if it's just to test, to try, to understand. I will. I think I had a problem with Snapchat. I didn't really get
So
it.
can you name me? What
So
are
yeah,
the
I'm on
apps?
Discord. Even though Discord is not really a social media thing, it's more like a chat meeting room thing, right, dude? Yeah.
IRC on steroids.
Huh?
IRC on steroids.
Yeah, IRC on steroids. You've got channels. You can have a channel with your friends, and there's voice. So it really was created for gamers to be able to play your games and still be on Discord at the same time on your thing, right? So that's Discord. Obviously your Instagram, your Facebooks. I am still on old people Twitter. I still am on old people Twitter, and it is old people things. TikTok, I'm on that too, for sure. What else am I on?
You said Snapchat.
Yeah, I was on Snapchat. At one point, I was on Vine when Vine was around.
I don't know what's that.
Yeah, Vine really started the whole 6-second video thing, and yeah.
Okay.
So I
You
make
find
it-
value?
I find that if I'm a serious practitioner in film and media, I need to be in all these things. I need to go in, I need to understand it. I may not like it, but I need to understand it.
Because nowadays clients do ask
Yeah.
for multi-platform kind of a
Yeah, so every brief
delivery,
now,
right?
every single brief now comes with, okay, we want a 69 film. We also want in 1:1. We also want in 9:16.
Yeah.
And then now there are more multi-formats. And now 4:3 is making a comeback,
Yeah.
right? I'm also into and starting to dabble into AR, extended reality.
The buzzword.
Yeah,
Or STA.
all of this, right? Somebody asked me for, let's say, bus stop activated AR with 3D LiDAR scanning and all the whole shebang. So whilst I may not be super conversant in all these things, I need to know that they exist and that they're out there. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a. So are you that type of person who, before you eat or your meal comes, are you that type of person who shine the light first, stand on top, take a photo kind of person to post on Instagram?
No, I'm not.
Are you sure? I'm going to check your
Yes,
account.
no, I'm not. Even though I have 3 Instagram accounts. Do I have 3? Should I?
Why?
Hashtag Sons of Thunder, TANDR. Okay. Hashtag, no, it's not hashtag at in the blue room. No, I'm not. I do still believe, and especially after cancer, in living your life apart from your devices and being in the moment. So there is a time to disconnect. And I think that's important, to disconnect. And you don't always live an authentic life online.
Yep.
I think that's important too.
Okay.
It's a means, it's not the end.
Okay. I think for students, right? I mean, there's so many, like you said, they go online and they can pick up a skill, just like that, right? What do you think is the
It's
most
like plug in
important?
or matrix, like
very fast.
motorcycle. Then you watch the YouTube, then motorcycle.
Even things that I don't know how to do, right? Oh, you just go YouTube. Last
Yeah.
time we never had these things. You literally had to go through manuals and try and error.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, with all these resources available for students, right? They literally don't need to go to school, actually. But what is this one skill that you think, or 1 or 2 skills that you think, graduates, new graduates, or current students should have, whether it's soft skills or hardware skills or whatever, right? What is this 1 or 2 things you think they should have?
Communication, human skills. That's something you don't learn from YouTube. Teamwork, empathy, reading a person, reading the room, even though it's just a mask, and seeing where other people are coming from, and then finding that elegant solution to the meeting of minds. Which is why you're right, you can learn all the skills you can on YouTube, but YouTube won't give you the ability to work in a team with all the jialat things that happens with it. Because you'll always hear, they don't want me in the team, they didn't pick me, and the director is being very precious with the idea, or this lecturer has favoritism on this, and there's all these things. But hey, guess what? That happens in real world as well, and these are the things that YouTube won't teach you. So you need to learn how to navigate these things. The problem, I think it's a problem, is that with young people being so entranced by their devices and passionately learning skills, they don't realize that you need to apply these things on a day-to-day situation. So you can't just learn all these things. You need to let's say you're a screenwriter and you want to be a great screenwriter. You want to write for TV and film and all that. And you read Sid Field, you read how to skin a cat or something. You read all the books and you practice, and you have all the formatting software, and you watch all the YouTube videos, and you're a great screenwriter, but you still need to know how to negotiate with agents, lawyers. You still need to know how to get out there, network, festivals, directors, producers. So there's a whole network and ecosystem that you still need to know how to kind of move and navigate through these skillfully, and that takes time, and some mentorship if possible. So if there's one thing that people need to go to school for, then that's the human aspect of it, which is why teachers will always be indispensable, because there's that one-on-one. You can be taught via a robot or an AI, but a teacher will be able to look that student in the eye and go like, okay, this one needs a little bit more of this. This one needs a little bit more spice. This one needs to be just left in a corner for a bit and then pull back a little bit. Because there's no one size fits all. But YouTube is one size fits all,
Yeah.
right? So you go to school, then you're taught these things, and you are forced to work together, because that's how the world works. You shouldn't have to avoid that.
So, I mean, I want to ask you about the whole being a... I know this topic has been brought up a couple of times, even during our webinar, but the whole... How do let's say I'm a freelancer, I'm a fresh grad, right? And I'm coming out, right? And, you know, the whole asking for money, invoicing bit, how does one navigate? How does one even, like, you know their worth even? Or if they go and do a job and that person is not paying, what do they do? Like, does the SAMP help protect? Is there something in Singapore that helps this newbies, out? Instead of small case, is it small court or
Small claims.
small claims?
Yeah.
Instead of that, is there something for the media industry, or is it just that? Because there's so many, it's tough, right? It's tough. Is it still like that these days?
It is. I think it's still tough. Now, I don't think I'm in the best position to answer this question, because I've always been either a full-timer or a business owner.
Yeah. And a good paymaster.
And a pretty okay lah. Sometimes I'm a bit late. Sorry. I try my best. But I think it is overwhelming, and I think it's a bit scary sometimes. Yeah. However, I will say that for young people these days, maybe they tend to overcharge than undercharge, I think. So they overworth themselves. Yeah. And sometimes when they say, I'll ask, hey, what are your rates? They'll tell me this particular. What? You kidding me, dude? That's like $50 different from this guy who's got like 15 years under his belt. And I find that that's disrespectful. Yeah. And they're untested. Yeah. And I don't know what they're worth. Yeah. So, but maybe they don't know as well. Maybe they genuinely don't know. Or maybe they really have a conflated sense of worth. Is it up to us to put them in their place? I don't know if it is, because it is a free world, it is a free economy, and yes, you can really charge whatever you think you're worth. And if somebody out there pays you for it, then that just perpetuates that, right? So the onus really is on hirers, companies, producers to pay a fair rate. And that also means not paying and not perpetuating that overinflated worth. Yeah. Because that will come back to bite this young freelancer. Because they'll expect that, right? They'll expect that. And that's just not realistic within a certain economic ecosystem. Yeah. We are a nation of 5 to 7 million people. That's it. Like it or not, MediaCorp's going to pay you that much money because it's free to air. And that's public broadcasting money, and that's all we have. That's the taxes we pay. It's never going to suddenly triple, because that's our population. You may want to do great production, special effects and all that. Wow, I want to raise the level of TV production in MediaCorp. And every few years, a filmmaker will come along and they'll try to do that. Then they're hit by this brick wall that is public broadcasting, and it is what it is, because it's for the masses and it's paid for by taxpayers' dollars, and that's all you have. It's not Netflix, it's not unlimited pockets. So you kind of are into this, you're born into this world and this ecosystem within Singapore where there are limits and there's a ceiling, which is why I do think that if people come out and they go like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to buck the system. I'm not going to work for MediaCorp. all these production companies, and I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to have my own channel, and I'm going to have my own paid subscription-based thingamajig. And if they really can do it, then
Good for
more
them,
power
man.
to them, man. They've figured it out. But you need to appreciate and understand that's the system, and then you want to work out of there, then by all means, because that's how Netflix was born.
Yeah.
That's how they did it. They saw an opening and they pivoted, and that's where they are today.
Yeah.
And somebody will then pivot away from Netflix, and it will just keep
Start
going.
something,
Yeah, and start something, right? There was another very, very highly financed channel called Quibi a couple of years ago, founded by David Katzenberg, I think, famously of Spielberg and Katzenberg and all that, and with the whole Hollywood power people. So they were going to start a channel to fight with your Netflixes and HBOs of the world, and it was all going to be short 9:16 content, 5-minute content.
Okay.
They had millions behind it, millions.
Didn't work.
Didn't really take off.
Yep.
They bet on it. It's like Tidal coming out after Spotify, right? They've got millions after it, but somehow the formula doesn't work, or it just doesn't have enough push, or it's sometimes first mover advantage. But there's always something new, and it's never too late. Look at Apple Plus, right? As a content channel, it's very, very late to the party. That's already a very crowded marketplace of your HBO, Amazon Prime, Netflix, etc. Then all of a sudden Apple comes like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to fight the same game with everybody else. I'm not going to conflate my channels with like 200 films. I'm just going to do like 20 films. I'm just going to do my thing. And every single film is going to be great content. Look at Ted Lasso over the Emmys yesterday. Sweep, right? And they just do their thing slowly with great, well-produced films and content. They just, beat to their own drums lah.
Yeah.
So there is always that little space for that to happen. Having said that, you can see the demise of Hook, for example, within our region. And that died. Sorry, please don't learn from me. Died. So Hook died, and that was a pity, because Southeast Asia as a market is tough. We're not homogeneous. We're not all English speakers.
Right.
We are Korea, we are Indonesia, Malaysia, Laos, Cambodia, Singapore. We are Bahasa. We are, we are different languages. Even our comedy is not one size
hard,
fit all.
yeah.
It's hard to have one common channel for Southeast Asia. So that's a tough one to conquer. That said, the Koreans do it incredibly well. Most of us don't speak Koreans, but we buy into the Korean culture.
Yeah.
Somehow, we drink their teas, we oppa all the way, we dance their dance, and we sing their songs. So that's
The Korean
proof
wave, right?
that
They
the
call
Korean
that,
wave
yeah.
as a culture,
Yeah.
as soft power, works somehow. So there is a way to
Kind
do
of
it.
need to find that voice in
Yeah.
Singapore, I think.
Yeah.
That's the essence, right?
Exactly, but-
Someone,
Yeah,
or-
but they spent decades building
Correct.
that with a lot of push from government
Yeah.
to do it. It wasn't just a one thing.
Yeah.
This industry is tough. It's hard. It's tough. It's not for everyone, and it takes a toll on you with your relationships and all that. I mean, man, how many birthdays and weddings and anniversaries I've missed. How many friends I've lost along the way. You pick up some friends along the way, but you've lost many friends. So you better be damn sure. And then again, you're never really sure until years pass and you go like, oh, I'm still here. But make it count, I suppose. And it's not just the work that counts. It's not just the films you make or that you're involved in that counts. It's every encounter along the way with people, and that's what counts. Because you may be involved in a terrible film, you may be involved as a freelancer with this, not very exciting video
or script,
or script that you go like, oh, like that only, okay, it's not very exciting. But you're a professional, and if you're a professional, you'll put 110% in it. But what matters to me is how you treat people along the way. how you treat every single freelancer, every single full-timer, every single talent, every single extra, califair, PA, driver along the way. Just because our work is hard and difficult doesn't give us the right to treat people any less than full respect as a human being. It doesn't give us the right to, just because I've had a bad day and I haven't slept in 5 days, that I can be rude to someone. It's just not right. I've been rude, I've been terrible, I've put people down, and that's not right too. So we can do better, we should do better, and I think that starts with the little things when we are treating each other with some level of respect. Minimally. All the more, because we know what we're all going through, we should give and cut each other a lot more slack, I think. From bosses to, to the PAs and to the crew and vice versa, all along, we should cut each other a little bit of slack. But that also means that we do also need to be a little bit more effective and empathetic communicators and receivers of communication. I think it's important. It's a lot harder to do than what I just said. So if there's one wish list I had about schools and institutions that teach film or media or video in any form from all the different schools, it would be to place a lot more stock in the fine arts and craft of communication. I think that is a lost art, because now everybody just communicates like that. And even then there are rules, there are unwritten rules that you need to even text.
Boundaries, right?
Right? Yeah, there are boundaries, and there are certain ways to do it in a way that is a lot more inclusive and respectful. So communication will always change. English has never been the way we speak it. Queen's English. What is Queen's English? Queen's English 500 years ago was not Queen's English. It was something different. And it will be different 2,000 years from now. But what will always be there and eternal is the level of empathy we have with one another. And I think that's eternal. And I think that's important. And so if anything, the schools, if possible, I know it's hard to grade, like, this one not very empathetic, I think I fail. Like you sneer at me, like you roll your eyes, like virtual roll, like fail. But yeah, I think there has to be some form of a framework or ability to talk about it more, practice it. It's a craft. Like oratorical skills is a craft. I wish that I had more kids coming out knowing how to present, knowing how to talk confidently, to present confidently, to write confidently, to even text confidently.
And email.
And email confidently, properly. There is a season for everything. There's this type of writing for different things, right? There's business writing, there's semi-casual business writing, but still formal enough. There is also business writing where I'm sneering at you, but with a smile, right? So there are ways to do these things, and I hope that there's a little bit more awareness of these things.
A lot of food for thought. But thank
on
you.
that note, it's time for a coffee and scone.
Scone.
Pandan cake.
Thank you for spending your time with us on a talk shop.
You're welcome. Hashtag in the blue room. Hashtag
It's handle.
Oh yeah, it's ad.